Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular board meeting for the Rainbow District School Board for January 21st, 2025. I want to say welcome to everybody who's joined us online today, as well as folks who have joined us in the audience. And we'll start with our land acknowledgement. The Rainbow District School Board would like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional and ancestral territory of the Anishinaabeg, including the Atikamekw, Anishinaabe, and Wampanoag nations. We would like to acknowledge that we are situated within the Robinson-Huron Treaty of 1850, and we want to recognize the inherent rights of the Anishinaabeg that maintain these lands from time immemorial. So we'll start tonight's meeting with a roll call. Director Bourget.
Trustee Dabowski.
Present.
Trustee Farrell.
Present.
Trustee Gibson.
Present.
Trustee Cosmely.
Present.
Trustee McCauley.
Present.
Trustee Dewar.
Present.
Trustee Hunda.
Present.
Trustee Corbier-Addison.
Present.
Trustee Clement.
Present.
Student Trustee Nuchtai.
Present.
And Student Trustee Wilson-Ziegel.
Present.
Thank you very much, Director. We'll move on to our first item of business, and that's the approval of the agenda. And we'll need a mover and a seconder that the agenda for the regular board meeting of January 21st, 2025 be approved. So that's moved by Trustee Cosmely and seconded by Trustee Hunda. Any questions, comments, or revisions? Seeing none, we'll go for the vote. Go ahead, Director.
Trustee Clement.
In favor.
Trustee Corbier-Addison.
In favor.
Trustee Dabowski.
In favor.
Trustee Dewar.
In favor.
Trustee Farrell.
In favor?
Trustee Gibson.
In favor.
Trustee Hunda.
In favor.
Trustee Cosmely.
In favor.
Trustee McCauley.
Favor.
Student Trustee Nuchtai.
In favor.
And Student Trustee Wilson-Ziegel.
In favor.
Motion is carried.
Thank you, Director. Next section of our agenda is the preliminary declaration of pecuniary interest. Are there any declarations? Seeing none, thank you. We'll move on to presentations, and tonight I will turn it over to the Director to introduce our Board Mental Health Chair, Sarah Clark. Thank you for being here, Sarah, and go ahead, Director. You might have a few words.
Thank you, Chair Farrell. Tonight we have a promised follow-up to our mental health plan that's going to be shared by Sarah Clark, our mental health lead, and she's also accompanied by our principal, assistant principal of Indigenous Education, Nicole Nicholas-Bear. So we're looking forward to the update as promised, and we're always grateful for the excellent work of our mental health team and Principal Nicole Nicholas-Bear. So with that, I'm going to turn the floor over to Sarah Clark.
Hello and Happy New Year. I am pleased to be here and to start this new year speaking to the Board of Trustees about Rainbow District School Board's Mental Health Strategic Plan. I am inspired by the work of all staff members in our board as we focus our collective efforts on student achievement and well-being. Thank you for inviting me to join you this evening as I share a path forward with the Mental Health Strategic Plan. I want to start by acknowledging all of the support that I have received in developing this plan. While I get to present the plan to you this evening, it is important to note that it is the culmination of many conversations and reflects a team effort. This evening, I will share the vision for mental health, the guiding principles, and the ministry requirements. I will also provide an overview of the strategic priorities for mental health in our schools and school boards, and highlight a few initiatives and strategies under each priority. I wish I could share with you all of the wonderful work that is happening or planned in our schools, but that would take me much longer than the time we have together this evening. I will therefore focus on highlights. The vision is captured in the following statement. We envision a learning environment that fosters mental health and well-being for all. Mental health and well-being provides the foundation for our mission as a school board. Together, we prepare students to become lifelong learners, achieving their full potential as confident, caring members of society. I want to commend this board for your leadership. You have not only prioritized mental health and well-being, you have created the organizational structure to support mentally healthy schools. This brings me to the guiding principles in the Mental Health Strategic Plan. Mental health and well-being is fundamental to student success. Working closely with families and community partners is essential to meeting the mental health needs of our students. The Rainbow District School Board employs a complement of registered social workers that have the knowledge and expertise to provide mental health services to our students. Providing educators with the knowledge and resources required to create and maintain mentally healthy schools will foster a school culture where all students feel safe, accepted, and welcomed. Nurturing a strong sense of belonging at school supports mental health and well-being. Universal mental health promotion, stigma reduction, and early recognition of mental health problems will encourage help-seeking behavior. Embracing diversity, equity, and inclusion with identity-affirming, culturally relevant, and responsive approaches will have a positive impact on the mental health and well-being of all students, their families, and staff in Rainbow Schools. Creating and maintaining culturally responsive and equitable classrooms and schools while fostering a culture of high expectations and providing the necessary supports for all learners will help students achieve and understand their inherent gifts. Effective January 2024, the Ministry of Education established 11 requirements to support the mental health and well-being of students in Ontario. These requirements are as follows: to develop and implement a 3-year mental health and addiction strategy and 1-year action plans, to engage in joint local planning with community-based child and youth mental health providers, to use a multi-tiered system of supports, to use evidence-informed brief interventions and standardized measures consistently, to develop and implement a suicide prevention, intervention, and postvention protocol, to provide virtual care delivery when appropriate, to enhance educator and staff mental health literacy, to deliver ministry-approved mental health literacy modules for students in grade 7 and 8, and as of this year, students in grade 10 careers, to make available culturally responsive family mental health literacy resources, embed social emotional learning skills in the classroom, and to code mental health absences as by reason of sickness or other unavoidable cause. As you will see, these requirements are embedded within this 3-year plan. We have 4 strategic priorities in the mental health strategic plan. In the next few slides, I will highlight key activities under each priority. This will provide a snapshot of how we are bringing each priority to life in our schools to support student achievement and well-being. The 4 priorities are to create and sustain mentally healthy schools, to provide evidence-informed, identity-affirming, and culturally relevant mental health promotion, prevention, and intervention, to support the mental health and well-being of Indigenous students through the Indigenous Mental Wellness Continuum Framework, and to enhance community partnerships to move towards an integrated tier system of care in line with the Right Time, Right Care vision. In terms of our first strategic priority, creating and sustaining mentally healthy schools, this involves embedding mental health and well-being at all levels of the school board to promote sustainable integration of trauma-aware, mentally healthy schools practices. We will continue to raise educator, staff, student, and parent guardian mental health literacy in order to decrease stigma and increase capacity to recognize the signs of mental health concerns early and to know how to access the appropriate intervention. This priority speaks to maintaining and creating schools where all students and families feel a sense of connectedness and belonging to their school community. This provides a solid foundation for learning. Mentally healthy schools are schools where we teach about mental health, and all members of the school community know how and when to access additional supports. In terms of the key activities under this priority, I'd like to highlight the following. We will deliver professional learning for staff on the following topics: trauma-informed schools, mental health first aid, mental health literacy, suicide intervention and prevention, and pathways for services. Implement the mental health literacy modules for grade 7, 8, and careers. Support administrators in leading mentally healthy schools. Engage students in mental health promotion and stigma reduction, and increase parental knowledge of mental health literacy and mental health resources. Some of this work has been underway in our schools for many years, and some, like the grade 10 careers modules, are new. I'm happy to share that to date, we have trained 511 staff in mental health first aid, 184 in assessing suicide in kids, and 248 in prepare, prevent, respond, which is more training for school staff about their role in suicide prevention and intervention. I think it's important to consider both the board commitment required to accomplish the training of almost 1,000 staff and the ripple effect this training has on our staff and students. We are giving caring and skilled staff the right tools to support students who may be struggling. We continue to make training a priority. Last year, School Mental Health Ontario created and launched an updated version of the Leading Mentally Healthy Schools resource. This was done in collaboration with the Ontario Principals Council, and this ebook resource has been shared with all of our principals. It offers valuable information, tools, resources, and strategies to support administrators in leading mentally healthy schools. I'd like to share more information about the mental health modules in career studies. Educators were trained during our September PA Day, and these modules are now being delivered in our classrooms. They are similar to the grade 7 and 8 mental health modules that were released last year and continue to be presented in our schools. All of these modules were developed for the Ministry of Education by School Mental Health Ontario. Delivered by our educators, they align with curriculum expectations. Here is an example of the curriculum expectations for career studies. So the first is to identify a range of strategies to manage stress as they navigate a healthy school, life, work balance. Explain how they have used such strategies in their lives so far and how they might apply them in the future, and recognize signs that could indicate stress is becoming problematic. The second is to identify people, resources, and services in the school and the community that can provide support when a person is experiencing mental health concerns, and describe how to access these supports. This is the content of the modules. The first is about strategies for managing stress and navigating balance. So it supports students to plan for navigating school, work, life balance by identifying signs of stress and affirming, analyzing, and possibly expanding helpful strategies they can embed into daily routines, both now and in the future. The next is knowing when, where, and how to seek support, which helps students to recognize signs that could indicate stress is becoming problematic and know where and how to seek support should they need it. It also offers opportunities to identify barriers to help seeking and considers ways to address them. I know that as trustees, you are very interested in what our students are learning, so I thought I would share with you a video that is shown in the first module about understanding stress.
Understanding stress management.
Stress isn't new to you. It's a part of life for everyone.
While we can't eliminate stress, we can learn strategies to help manage it. You may already know many.
There are lots of ways we can think about managing stress. One idea that helps some people is the optimal stress range.
The optimal stress range is the place where we feel most comfortable, in control, and able to cope while managing stress. We can also think clearly, make decisions, and take care of ourselves.
Being in the optimal stress range doesn't mean everything is perfect. Stress can still be, well, stressful, but being in our optimal stress range can help us manage it the best that we can.
Everyone's optimal stress range is different. Some are wider, some are more narrow. And the same person's stress range can be different for different things, like social situations versus exams.
The support we have from family, friends, and community, the environment around us, our experiences, our health, including our mental health, and other healthy routines, such as getting enough sleep, healthy eating, going outside, taking a break from social media, and participating in physical activity.
Does the idea of being in the optimal stress range make sense to you? Why or why not? Reflect on a time when you think you were in the optimal stress range. What were the circumstances? What did it feel like? Let's pause and discuss.
Sometimes things in life can push us outside our optimal stress range, and we move from managing stress well to being overwhelmed by stress. The signs of stress can help us tell when that happens.
Although the signs of stress can be different for each of us, they often impact the way we typically think, feel, and act. This can appear as changes in our thoughts, like thinking negatively about ourselves, others, or the future. Changes in our emotions, like feeling irritated, overwhelmed, worried, or sad. Changes in our bodies, like muscle tension, aches and pains, or sweating. And changes in our actions, like spending less time with family and friends, or not doing as well in school as usual.
We all get outside our optimal stress range at times. There's a lot going on in our lives. What's important is that we notice the signs. Noticing the signs can take practice. The next time you're feeling stressed, pause and ask yourself, what's happening in my thoughts, emotions, body, and actions?
These signs are valuable cues that help tell us when we've shifted from being able to manage stress to having way too much stress.
Once we know we're outside our optimal stress range, we can put in place routines and habits that support us to feel our best and stress management strategies that fit our unique needs to help bring us back to our optimal stress range.
Day-to-day routines and stress management strategies can help us expand our optimal stress range too. Imagine you need to study for a test and you're tired, hungry, and haven't had a chance to see your friends in days. How narrow might your optimal stress range be? Now imagine you need to study and you've had a great sleep, a nutritious snack, and a walk with a friend. Your optimal stress range might feel much wider, which can help you manage stress more easily.
Our optimal stress range can change over time too, depending on what's happening in our lives.
Next, we're going to think about even more routines and strategies so you can help find what works best for you.
As you can see, the focus is on giving students strategies to manage and the tools to know when more help is needed. In addition to the information given to students, there is a handout that is provided to parents by the schools when these modules are delivered. This aligns with the ministry requirement to enhance parental mental health literacy. This information is sent home to encourage conversations between parents and their children. What is shown on this screen is an excerpt of the handout. We are expecting grade 6 modules for the upcoming school year. The second strategic priority really focuses on the work that the mental health team does in schools. It is about ensuring that the mental health services we provide are evidence-informed, identity-affirming, and culturally relevant. We use a tiered model of services, which ensures that we have the supports necessary to provide students with the right level of service by the right professional. Tier 1, which is mental health promotion, is the work of all adults within our school board and family of schools. Tier 2 and Tier 3 services require the knowledge and skills of regulated professionals and is provided by registered social workers, who I have the privilege of working with. I would like to highlight some of the key activities of the mental health team. Social workers provide individual and family-based mental health supports in schools using evidence-informed practices. Social workers also collaborate with school and community-based supports for students with more intensive needs. I want to spend some time talking about measurement-based care. As you heard earlier, having a measurement-based care platform is now required by the ministry. We were in the process of implementing our platform when the requirements were announced. Measurement-based care involves tracking client progress throughout treatment using consistent patient-reported outcome measures. It provides an avenue for clinicians and their clients to regularly check in with each other, reflect on objective symptom change data together, and uncover insights or patterns that can inform treatment decisions. The uptake of measurement-based care is growing rapidly, with it being viewed as a core component of evidence-based mental health care. So what does this mean for our students? Firstly, we are now using a separate and secure online platform to maintain the mental health records for our students, which ensures that we are compliant with all of our obligations under relevant legislation. Secondly, the platform gives mental health staff access to more information about the student as they move through intervention and shows us what is happening with their symptoms. In other words, we can follow the student as they move forward. It is important to note that the platform does not offer diagnostic tools. We do not diagnose our students. The platform gives us access to information to chart our students' progress from a mental health perspective. Let me give you an example. Let's say we have a fictional grade 11 student who has been struggling with symptoms related to low mood and high anxiety. During their first session with a mental health staff member, the student will have the opportunity to talk to the social worker about what is going on in their lives and what their goals and hopes are for the work they'll be doing together. My staff will also ask questions about a variety of topics related to their mental health and well-being. During that session, the student will complete 2 assessments: the PHQ-9, which measures symptoms of mood difficulties, and the GAD-7, which measures symptoms of anxiety. Now, let's say that in a collaborative discussion, the student has decided that they want to work on techniques for improving their mood and reducing their symptoms of anxiety. Using a cognitive behavioral therapy approach, they will learn techniques and skills to help them with these goals. The PHQ-9 and GAD-7 measures will be repeated at regular intervals during their sessions. It is important to remember that measurement-based care is a clinical process, not simply the collection of measurement outcomes. The process of incorporating data and insights into clinical discussions and decision-making is where the real value lies. What I have on screen now is a graph that shows the progression of a student through intervention. As you can see, during the first session, the student scored very high on symptoms of depression. Now, approximately 3 months later, with strategies and support, the student's mental health has improved as they are now presenting with mild symptoms. This would result in a discussion with the student about what has helped them reduce their symptoms, and also what is next in terms of new goals for intervention or closure. This is a slide depicting the same fictional student's symptoms of anxiety. Again, as the student moves through intervention, you can see that they have had a significant reduction in symptoms of anxiety from October to January. While we remain in the early stages of using this platform, measurement-based care is giving the mental health team and our students more data. This allows for a more fulsome clinical discussion between the student and mental health staff, while also contributing to aggregate depersonalized information about mental health in general. The third strategic priority is to support the mental health and well-being of Indigenous students through the implementation of the Indigenous Mental Wellness Continuum Framework. The Indigenous Mental Wellness Continuum Framework was developed in collaboration with the First Nations and Inuit Health Branch, the Assembly of First Nations, and Indigenous mental health leaders from various First Nations non-governmental organizations. As noted in the framework, health and wellness is a balance of mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional aspects. As you can see in the slide, this balance is enriched as individuals have purpose in their daily lives, whether it is through education, employment, caregiving, or cultural ways of being and doing. Hope for their future and those of their families that are grounded in a sense of identity, unique Indigenous values, and a belief in spirit, a sense of belonging and connectedness within their families, to community and culture, and finally a sense of meaning and an understanding of the lives and those of their families and communities. This priority has been co-developed with the Principal of Indigenous Education through much dialogue, listening, and consideration. The implementation of this priority will also be an ongoing collaboration between departments. We know that while mental health and well-being is vital to student achievement also impacts mental health and well-being. Both are necessary and interrelated elements for our students. Here are a few of the key activities in this strategic priority. Have social workers increase the knowledge of the role that colonialization has played in traditional psychotherapy and therapeutic approaches that are most effective for Indigenous students. Create psychologically and culturally safe spaces. Consider physical, emotional, spiritual, and psychological elements in schools. Provide mental health and well-being learning in partnership with the Indigenous Education Department through Reach Ahead credit-bearing summer courses, and consult with Indigenous communities and service providers and organizations to identify reciprocal pathways to culturally appropriate services for Indigenous students and their families. The mental health team in the Indigenous Education Department came together for the afternoon of the PA Day on November 29th. We shared information about our respective roles, responsibilities, and processes. We explored the Indigenous mental wellness continuum framework as a group and had focused time to talk about creating psychologically and culturally safe spaces, considering physical, emotional, spiritual, and psychological elements in our schools. It was a deep and meaningful dialogue, the start of ongoing focus and collaboration between mental health and Indigenous education. The fourth priority is about moving our entire children's mental health system forward to align with the aspirational vision outlined in Right Time, Right Care. Right Time, Right Care, as you may recall, was developed as a partnership between School Mental Health Ontario, the Lead Agency Consortium, the Knowledge Institute, and Children's Mental Health Ontario. This vision is about developing a coordinated, responsive system of care aimed at meeting the mental health needs of Ontario's children and young people. It is about how schools and community-based child and youth mental health organizations can collaborate to ensure that children and young people have barrier-free access to high-quality mental health care offered at the right time and in the best setting to suit their needs. Schools have an important role in the vision of care for children and youth mental health. We are an integral part of a broader system of care. Each partner in the system of care has clearly defined roles and responsibilities with pathways to meet the mental health needs of children and youth through our community partners. You can better see the roles of school and community-based mental health providers in this diagram from Right Time, Right Care. The bottom triangle illustrates the roles of schools, primarily offering Tier 1 and Tier 2 services, which include mental health promotion, targeted prevention, and brief services. A small portion of our role involves the third tier, which is specialized consultation and assessment, family and caregiver support, and therapy services. The triangle on the top depicts the role of our community-based child and youth mental health providers, which is primarily services offered in the third and fourth tiers. The fourth tier involves intensive services, community, and in-home treatment or inpatient live-in treatment. It is important to note the bidirectional arrows in the diagram. They represent pathways between community-based and school-based services. Students may require different levels of care at different times as they move through services, either as their needs increase or as their symptoms improve. Regular meetings are happening in our community to move this aspirational vision forward. School Mental Health Ontario will be providing specialty coaching to mental health leads to ensure the work we do is aligned. The lead agencies are also receiving specialty coaching from their ministry for the same purpose. Having an agreement between multiple sectors will be key in moving this aspirational vision forward to implementation. In terms of key activities under this priority, they are all in support of moving the vision forward and solidifying pathways in and out of school and community-based services. They are to create clearly identified internal and external pathways for mental health support in support, and services by engaging in joint local planning with child and youth mental health service providers. To implement the board's suicide prevention, intervention, and postvention protocol, to consider the unique needs of rural schools and communities while developing pathways, and to provide professional learning for staff and families with regards to system navigation. The Mental Health and Addiction Strategic Plan that has been presented to you this evening will be posted on the board's website later this week. We invite our staff, students, families, and community partners to consult the plan as we work together to create a learning environment that fosters mental health and well-being for all. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Are there any questions or comments from trustees? Trustee Clement, go ahead.
Thank you, Sarah. That's interesting. In that plan, it also is an integral piece that you have the parents involved in that too. Have you ever had any feedback, interest in that, the parents getting involved in that mental health piece?
Thank you for your question. Absolutely, we have parents that are very much involved, and certainly we continue to work towards having our parents involved, working with our parent involved committee, absolutely. They're an important part.
Trustee Cosmerly.
This is an area that's a passion of mine, so a couple of questions. With the measurement-based care, is the information that you're gathering through the clinical process you've got in place, is that shared with community partners if a student has linkages with a community provider?
So thank you, Trustee Cosmerly. That's a great question. One of the things that we're working on when we're working on our pathways for students is about how we share information with consent. We really want to enhance our student experience, and so knowing if they start with someone, we're looking towards warm handoffs. How do we connect them to the person they need to be connected to with the information that they allow us to share? Absolutely.
Trustee Gibson. Oh, sorry, we have a supplemental from Trustee Cosmerly.
Just had a follow-up. Waitlist has always been an issue with community. I'm glad to see that they're still talking. You're not telling us anything new. Is there anything happening at the community end to reduce waitlists so that somebody who is receiving maybe layer 2 or 3 service here is getting handed off maybe a little bit more quickly? Because I know that's always been an issue, is the wait list for service. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. It is my understanding when we meet with our community partners that they continue to focus on improving wait lists.
Okay, Trustee Cosmerly. Trustee Gibson, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Farah. I did have the same question as Trustee Cosmerly about the information that we're keeping, whether it was moving to the other service providers, because I have had feedback from parents who it's just an extra, quite onerous chore for them to collect all that information again and have to give it to the new person every time. So I know that would be something that would be appreciated, especially with, behavioral issues, to have those examples that get to the service provider would be fantastic. And then my second question, since that one was already answered, was around the data as well. I think you mentioned that absences were going to be coded in certain ways. I guess we're trying to evaluate which absences are mental health versus physical health. So are we doing something with that data? Is the ministry collecting that data? Where does that data go?
We have Director Bourget is going to chime in here.
So I would share in response to that, Trustee Gibson, that ministry has not given us clear guidelines on how they're going to collect that data, but we're certainly preparing for that possibility, and whatever direction we receive, we'll definitely be complying. But I think it's an evolving work that we're going to, get to a point where there's processes in place. But in the meantime, we're setting up systems where it will be possible.
Thank you. Anything further, Trustee Gibson? Okay. Trustee Hunda, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Farrell. Through you to Sarah and Principal Barrett, thank you so much for this presentation. Again, this is something as well as my colleagues, a very big passion of mine. And I've had personal experience dealing with one of my grandchildren in the system, and I want to thank you for the work that's been done. It's been nothing short of amazing, the difference that we as trustees have seen in our schools, and we made it very clear that we support the mental health. You cannot learn if you are not in a good place mentally. I want to thank you for all the work that you do, and that my experience from feedback from parents is that it is crucial in making a difference. So I want to thank you, and I'm fully aware of the hard work that's being done at Rainbow Board through all participants. I have my question basically piggybacks on my colleagues from way up at the beginning of the presentation when it said effectively January 24th, the Ministry of Education established 11 requirements. Perfect. Glad that, no one can complain about that. But if we go ahead a bit, it says enhance community partnerships to move forwards an integrated, tiered system of care in line with the right time, right care vision. Perfect. I guess my question to you, because you're the one that's dealing with it on our behalf, is that, as my colleagues mentioned, it's been common knowledge for a very long time in this city that we're very, very crucially short of resources. So I guess my question to you, which is not you, and I understand that, but as you being the liaison person, the person that deals with it, have you found any improvement in, I'm glad that they made the requirements. Have they made a monetary sort of that you're aware of improvement to this community? And I mean, certainly it's standard throughout Northern Ontario that we are very short on resources for mental health, particularly for youth in this community. We're talking very long, like 3-year time limit. Waits, it's insane. And it's kind of funny when we talk about the right help at the right time, it has to exist. So I guess my question to you is, aside from thank you for the work that we do, are you aware that there's been any improvement in that partnership once in the community? And I do appreciate that I've talked a lot to them, and I'm fully aware of their own barriers in their own ministry, but has it improved at all?
Thank you for your question and your comment, Trustee Hunda. What I will say is, someone who's worked in child and youth mental health for, I'm not going to say the number of years right now, but a long time, is that right time, right care has changed the conversation. So I am optimistic, because when we come to the table, we now have a very clear collective vision, which is resulting in being able to move forward in a way that perhaps has not been historically.
Well, thank you for that answer, and that's very encouraging, and I thank you for continuing the effort.
Anything further, Trustee Hunda? Okay. Trustee McCauley.
Thank you very much, Sarah. It's very enlightening. I don't have a specific question on where you're going here. My comment and/or question deals with the holistic view of how we're dealing with the mental health situation in general with our students, because oftentimes we don't get people coming to us, or we don't get the signals where they're there until either it becomes very critical or whatever. I'm impressed with what's been happening as far as salting the area, as far as we were recently at an event over at LaSalle where we saw what was happening with the grade 9 students and the indoctrination of these kind of things. I'm very impressed with that. I think that is key. And so maybe just leaning a little bit on my colleague Honda's question, how are we fixed, basically, to continue this kind of work overall within your department, so that we are getting a good grounding out there to our students, and then as a result of that, we can get people coming back into us and filtering them out through the system. So that's really part comment, part question as to how we are working those things out, because as has been mentioned, it's an area that's dear to my heart, having seen too many times the tragedy on the other side of it. And so I'm always wanting to see that we are being proactive in our approach. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee McCauley, for your question and comment. I think what I'll start with is this idea of tiered care. So we are, again, all staff in our schools are responsible for that Tier 1 mental health promotion. And that means things like teaching our youngest learners about their emotions, about their feelings. We have social emotional learning embedded in our classrooms. I have staff that are going into our grade 1 classrooms and our grade 6 classrooms. We have mental health learning in grade 7 and grade 8 and grade 10. So we are really doing a lot for that core foundation, as well as all of the work that we all do around creating an environment in our schools where there's a sense of belonging and student achievement. Like I said earlier, we often talk about the idea, certainly we know mental health impacts student achievement. And student achievement and doing well in schools helps mental health. These are all kind of related pieces. So, and then as we move through those tiers, and we teach our students and our staff when to identify that more support is needed and how to seek help, I think we do good things for our students and our staff.
Any further, Trustee McCauley? And we have Trustee Dabowski. Go ahead.
Thank you. I guess my only question is around the support received by our Manitoulin Island and Espanola communities in terms of mental health, considering we're a lot more rural and remote at times. You know, the wait lists in Sudbury might be 3 years, but the wait lists on the island are a lot longer. So I guess my question is do we, with the existing budget we have now, is that enough to ensure that all schools have equitable access to the mental health supports offered by Rainbow? And if not, through this plan, do we have measurements available that could inform potential, you know, efforts by the board to access additional, you know, dollars to help to support that? We clearly are in a society where there's a lot of things happening, and kindness might be on the back burner at times, but I know it's something that we strive and do to share with our students, so that, you know, they can have that kindness and they can have good mental health and those supports there too. But the reality is many parents are struggling right now, and grandparents, and, you know, just struggling to keep a roof over their heads and food on their tables. You know, there's a lot of stress, and, you know, as we have these conversations about stress, you know, students will need to define that from an individual level, because at times even I don't know when I'm stressed out, right? So I think, you know, that it's just really around that question too, that equitable service to our Manitoulin Island communities in Espanola, knowing that we don't have that much access to supports as it is at home.
Thank you, Trustee Dabowski. Certainly, we do have mental health staff that work on the island and live on the island and support our island schools. And one of the things is as we move towards this right time, right care, is really ensuring that we are considering rural needs, because they are very different than the needs in Sudbury.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other, one more further question. Trustee Corby-Addison, go ahead.
Hi there. I just wanted to thank you for your continued effort and the staff of the board in their quest to bring the best care they can to the children. I know it's a game of juggling balls sometimes, and sometimes that cart gets turned over and you got to go to a different mode of care and then come back and pick up your balls and juggle them again. And it's a continued effort, and we'll continue to fight the way we can to bring about the best resources for your staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Cosmerly.
I just want to pick up on that. Is there anything that you can see that we could do as a board to support you, especially with strategic priority number 4? I think we all recognize this board does an incredible job supporting people, but we are one piece of the puzzle. And I know we have written letters before, but is there anything that you could see that we could do in terms of action to try to move? Because my background is government. 13 years ago when I retired, what you were talking about is exactly the same as what you're talking about now. So in 13, well, plus 13, like more than 13 years, nothing has changed with the community piece. It's changed a lot with the school piece, but not in the community. Is there something you can see that we might be able to do to move things forward a little bit? Thank you.
Thanks to both of you for your comments, and I will pass that along to my staff if that's okay, because they'll certainly appreciate that. I would really like to think about that and come back to you with an answer. I certainly don't have one right now, but I'd like to give it some consideration.
Thanks, Trustee Cosmerly. I don't see any further questions. I just wanted to say, just to pick up on a couple of things, Sarah. First and foremost, to pick up what Trustee Cosmerly was talking about. The real growth that I see now is the support of staff, not only principals, but teachers, educational assistants. This is a focus that the board has. My experience has been where we were dealing with loads and loads of mental health aspects when I was teaching and being a principal. We didn't have any support. And now the training is there constantly, consistently, and my conversations with staff have told me how much they appreciate the work that we're doing on mental health training. So, great job. I agree with Trustee Cosmerly. It's always been the same old complaint is, what is the community doing? What's the community doing? At least we're getting supports in place now that help our students and our staff immediately. So that's good to hear. So Sarah, on behalf of all of us, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to you as the mental health lead, but also the great staff that you have and all the work that you're doing. It is certainly making a difference for probably some of the most vulnerable people in our system, but also everybody needs to have a mental health coach from time to time. So thank you very much. We really, really do appreciate your presentation and great work, and please pass it along to all of your staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
So now after that wonderful presentation, we will continue with the agenda. And we're on Section D of the agenda now, report from closed meetings, and we have no reports from closed meetings at this time. We will move on to Section E, which is old business. We have a set of minutes to approve, so they're part of your package. We'll need a mover and seconder that the minutes of the regular board meeting held on Tuesday, December the 10th be approved, and that is moved by Trustee Dewar and seconded by Trustee McCauley. Any errors or omissions or anything that's missed on that? Seeing none, we will call for the vote. Go ahead, Director.
Trustee Clement.
In favor.
Trustee Corby-Addison.
In favor?
Trustee DeBoski.
In favor.
Trustee Dewar.
In favor?
Trustee Farrell.
In favor.
Trustee Gibson.
In favor.
Trustee Hunda.
In favor.
Trustee Cosmerly.
In favor?
Trustee McCauley.
In favor.
Student Trustee Nuchitai.
In favor.
And Student Trustee Wilson-Ziegel.
In favor.
Motion is carried.
Thank you, Director. We'll move on to reports and recommendations from board committees. And we will turn the floor over to Superintendent of Business, Adam Gilbo, to talk about the Accessibility Planning Committee. And then we'll deal with the motion once you finish your report. Go ahead, Adam.
Thank you, Chair Farrell. The Accessibility Planning Committee met on Monday, November 5th, 2024, and as part of our agenda, reviewed the multi-year accessibility plan that you will find in the package provided to you. This plan covers the period of January 2023 to December 2027 and outlines the objectives and commitments made by the Rainbow District School Board to identify, remove, and prevent barriers affecting accessibility. You will recall that this plan was approved at this time last year, but as part of our annual review, there are some notable changes included. They include the updating facility information, including the wheelchair accessibility and lockdown tracking reports that can be found in the appendices at the back of the document, and the inclusion of Melissa Gladu as part of the Accessible Planning Committee as the Parent Involvement Committee representative. Please note that this multi-year accessibility plan can be found on the board website and is available to the public. The committee will continue to meet at least once annually and provide updates to the plan as required. And I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions for the superintendent? Seeing none, we have a motion, and we'll need a mover and a seconder, that the board approves the multi-year accessibility plan for 2023-2027 as recommended by the Accessibility Planning Committee. And that's moved by Trustee Cosmerly and seconded by Trustee Hunda. Any further questions on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Go ahead, Director.
Trustee Clement,
In favor?
Trustee Corbier-Addison,
In favor?
Trustee Dabowski,
In favor?
Trustee Dewar,
In favor?
Trustee Farrell,
In favor?
Trustee Gibson,
In favor?
Trustee Hunda,
In favor?
Trustee Cosmerly,
In favor?
Trustee McCauley,
Favor.
Student Trustee Nuchtai,
In favor?
and Student Trustee Wilson-Ziegel.
In favor.
Motion is carried.
Thank you, Director. Moving on to new business. We have number one, revised estimates for 2024-2025. And once again, I'll turn the floor over to Superintendent Adam Gilbo to give us an update on our estimates. Go ahead.
Thank you again, Chair Farrell. This evening, we are pleased to present to you our 2024-2025 revised estimates. To begin, we will share with you what our director has shared in a previous board meeting regarding our increased enrollment. As you can see from our October 31st counts, we have seen increases in both elementary and secondary enrollment for a total increase of 111 ADE, including adjustments for high credit and adult day school registrations. Of course, this type of increase results in additional dollars through core education funding from the ministry. Next, we will look at the funding provided by the Responsive Education Program, or REPs, for 2004-2005, formerly known as the Priorities and Partnership Funds, or PPFs. Many of these will be familiar from the original budget presentation that we did in June, including the focus on reading supports and enhancements, and the math recovery plan, which includes the board math lead, school math facilitators, and digital math tools. There's a slight increase of approximately $35,000 in our Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program funding due to additional funds provided for transportation costs related to co-ops and ministry job fairs. I would like to focus and highlight some of the funds that have been announced since the presentation in June. These include $69,000 for co-op education supports for students with disabilities and $18,250 for the Development Disabilities Pilot, which supports student transitions. Our annual allocation for transportation and stability supports for children and youth in care this year at the same $155,500 we saw last year. Professional development funding for education workers at $35,907. Approximately $15,000 for the Parent Education and Awareness Campaign that will support costs for increasing awareness and knowledge regarding vaping and cell phone misuse, aligned with PPM 128, the Provincial Code of Conduct, and School Board Codes of Conduct. An additional amount of almost $44,000 is available for implementation supports and supporting the achievement and well-being of students and developing a positive school climate in line with the same PPM 128. Finally, $58,788 for census update transition supports for phasing in the 2021 Statistics Canada census updates to the core education formulas. This one-time funding is intended to allow boards to adjust cost structures to align with census data, impacting future updates of classroom staffing, including teachers, ECEs, EAs, and mental health workers. These additional funds bring our originally reported total to just over $3 million. Looking at revenue, This format is consistent with the budget presentation we did in June, but different from what you have seen in the past as it represents the new core education funding structure. You will note an overall increase to our core ed funding of approximately $8.2 million. This is a result of the aforementioned increase in enrollment, including in each of the 6 pillars: classroom staffing, learning resources, special education, school facilities, student transportation, and school board administration. The planning provision amount that you saw at budget time was previously included in the absence of the actual Bill 124 and labor benchmark updates that weren't available in June. The ministry has since updated these figures, and they are now represented in each of the respective funding pillars above. The school renewal allocation and school condition improvement totals remain similar to what was budgeted last summer, with a slight adjustment to the funding for debt charges based on a reduced internal borrowing exposure. Under other revenue, we've seen an increase in our First Nations funding through education service agreements with the addition of 7 elementary and 1 secondary First Nation students. This figure also now includes funding to reimburse expenses for Jordan's principal education assistants that were not previously captured in this section. The increase in the miscellaneous revenue includes expected additional interest revenue and additional international registrations above the original budgeted amount. The increase in REP funding, as we just went over in detail, is also represented here. Under the reserves, you will note the use of reserve funds under student-focused initiatives to support our Welcome Center project, as was budgeted previously. We are utilizing existing balances within student success, outdoor education, student mental health, and other reserves under the targeted students and experiential learning funds of approximately $1.7 million. We are expecting to utilize a portion of our special education reserves to balance the budget that was approved at our SEAC meeting last spring. The school renewal funds represent the carryover costs associated with capital projects that were not completed prior to the end of the 23-24 fiscal year on August 31st, 2024. These funds are drawn from an existing reserve that was set up to reflect that carryover and are fully committed to existing projects. The $430,000 increase to accumulated surplus represents our projected operating surplus for the year. However, you will recall that we set aside a budgeted amount of $250,000 in a reserve for the Lancer Dome, which brings our surplus for compliance purposes to approximately $180,000. I will detail this further when we discuss our reserves in a moment. As we look at our expenses, in general, you will note that we have increases across the board reflecting the increase in FTE as we support the instructional requirements for our additional enrollment. This is represented in the increase for instruction and school management spending. Please note that the decrease in student support services is due to some budgeted positions that are currently vacant. Otherwise, the increases to support services are similarly influenced by the increase in enrollment and adjustments for labor provisions. Within the pupil accommodation costs, showing an increase of 8%, are the school renewal carryover costs for capital projects mentioned previously. The increase in transportation is a result of additional ridership due to our increased enrollment, as well as costs for transportation requirements for both special needs and our summer school program. Lastly, you will see the increase in the responsive education programs, which we have already outlined. Finally, as we look at the board's balance and balances for reserves, I will highlight just a couple of things. First, you will see the aforementioned surplus of approximately $180,000 being added to our accumulated balance. You will also note the use of reserve balances from student-focused initiatives and special education, as previously mentioned in the revenue section of the presentation. And that will conclude our presentation for the 24-25 revised estimate. And as always, happy to take any questions.
Questions? Go ahead, Student Trustee Nujitai, go ahead.
Thank you. And through you, Chair Farrell, my question just revolves around the implementation supports for PPM 128. Do you know what type of supports have been allocated for this section specifically?
Just 1 second, I'm going to pull it up so I can read it off here.
Thank you.
So the school boards do have flexibility to determine what supports are most fitting for the board. They can be learning and development, they can be policies and procedures, any types of programs or resources related to training, or student engagement as well. So awareness campaigns, there is a lot of flexibility within the funding.
Great, thank you so much.
Further questions? Trustee Cosmerly.
Just one about the special education. Is there any thought that we might get some additional money? I see our reserves are really going down. Has there been any talk at all by the government that there's going to be anything added to special ed coming?
Through Chair, nothing explicit since the last time we heard funding. Of course, we're expecting announcements in the coming months for the upcoming school year, but we continue to review our special education budgets and spending, and we'll be doing so over the next couple months as well as we're preparing the budget for next year.
Further questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much, Adam, for the wonderful presentation, the revised estimates. We appreciate it. We have no motions emanating out of that, so we'll move to the next section of our agenda. And we have an OSTA AECO Educational Action Conference update. And I'd like to turn the floor over to Student Trustee Nuchitai, and maybe Student Trustee Wilson-Zagel also for a comment. Go ahead.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Chair Farrell. So just a few brief points that I just wanted to mention for the conference that's coming up in February that I have been working with my leadership team to plan. So it's very exciting. We have a lot of really amazing opportunities for all student trustees that are going to be able to go. And so I invite you all, if you'd like to review the agenda that is within your package as well. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I have a very comprehensive knowledge of it, as I know it like the back of my hand. And I just wanted to point out a few key points that are super important for going to all of these conferences, specifically opportunities around the Indigenous Student Trustees Council, which I have the opportunity to chair as of this year. And it gives opportunities for Indigenous voices all around Ontario to be heard for all students. And within this organization, we represent all 2 million students that are situated within the traditional territories of Indigenous peoples. And so this council is extremely important, not just because I chair it, but because I understand the importance that it has. And additionally, on top of that, it gives the opportunity for rural and northern students to come down to a very populated city such as Toronto or Ottawa as this conference is being held in, which they don't typically get the opportunities to go down because they are very northern and rural. And additionally, because this is a smaller group of student trustees that typically go, because it is in the middle of the school year, the networking opportunities are second to none, which is one of the amazing opportunities that the Ontario Student Trustee Association offers for student trustees across Ontario. And once again, I am more than happy to answer any questions that anyone may have, and if my co-student trustee Wilson-Zagel has anything to add as well.
Go ahead, Student Trustee Wilson-Zagel. You have the floor.
Thank you. I just want to say, Tia, I'm super, Trustee Nuchitai, my bad. I'm super impressed with you and all the work that you've done with this conference. And personally, I am super excited to see it. And I heard that we might also be getting to meet the Minister of Education. So I'm really excited about that.
Thank you, Trustee Wilson-Zagel. Any questions from the trustees? Trustee Dabowski, go ahead.
My one question is, I've seen this agenda before and have felt that over time it's an exciting opportunity for student trustees and for First Nation trustees as student trustees as well. I'm wondering, when you have all these breakout sessions and all of these young leaders together, where does that go? Where does the information go? And how do we also, as school boards and trustees, help, I guess, elevate your voice as well to inform our processes directly from the students we serve? That's my question.
Thank you so much. And through you, Chair Farrell. So all of these breakout sessions that you will see in the agenda, they're all led by our phenomenal team of advocacy leaders. And so through OSTA, we chair 4 pillars that surround the entire foundation of OSTA as well. And with this information, especially because we are still right in the middle of our term, it is challenging sometimes to be able to allocate the proper needs and necessities to put forth the very extraordinary visions that all of our student trustees have through this. But one amazing outlet that we have had to be able to carry through a lot of the visions that we have is through social media, just because we do live in a digital age, and we do have a OSTA Instagram page, which is accumulated for all of the student trustees. Additionally, for all student trustees, we have OSTA Central, which is posted for all student trustees. So any news that they may be interested in hearing, or any findings that they also had, they have the opportunity to post and comment on that as well. And like I mentioned before, the networking experiences that you get are really second to none. And so that in itself offers the opportunity for the ideas that student trustees have to network with other student trustees, maybe in rural boards or maybe in boards that have a very mass population that could help them with this idea that they have. And additionally, it offers so many amazing leadership opportunities as well that they can carry through different facets that they may be involved in, or different organizations that they have a part in. And so ultimately, it's an extremely second to none experience, as I can say for myself as well. And through these different advocacy workshops, it also leads for a very exciting plan, which we can release in May of 2025. So I am super excited to share that with you all when we have the opportunity to do so. So thank you for your question. I hope I answered it appropriately.
A follow-up, Trustee Dubosky, or all good? Any further questions? Wonderful. So we have a motion that's for under consideration. So the motion is that we'll need a mover and a seconder that the board approve the attendance of student trustee Nujatai and student trustee Wilson Ziegel at the OSTA/AECO Educational Action Conference in Ottawa on February 13th to February 16th. And that's moved by Trustee Hunda and seconded by Trustee Dubosky. Any further questions or comments on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. Go ahead, Director.
Trustee Clement.
In favor.
Trustee Corbier-Addison.
In favor.
Trustee Dubosky.
In favor.
Trustee Dewar.
In favor?
Trustee Farrell.
In favor.
Trustee Gibson. Trustee Hunda.
In favor.
Trustee Cosmerly.
In favor.
Trustee McCauley.
In favor.
Student trustee Nuchtai.
In favor.
And student trustee Wilson Ziegel.
In favor.
The motion is carried.
That's excellent. That's carried unanimously, and we wish you both just a great conference in February. Looking forward to hear the results. So moving on to the next section of our agenda, notice of absence. There are no notices of absence tonight, and that moves on now to director's remarks. So we'll turn the floor over to Director Bourget for his remarks this evening.
Thank you, Chair Farrell. And trustees, I know that Chair Farrell will speak to this, but I would like to begin just by wishing everyone involved in the school bus collision a very speedy recovery. For sure, all the students and families and everyone affected are in our thoughts. I'd also like to begin the year by just once again expressing our sincere thanks to the Board of Trustees for your support and advocacy for our students and staff. As you can see by our presentation tonight and other presentations we've enjoyed, we remain very focused on the priorities that you've established in strategic directions, which have provided us a very purposeful path forward through your leadership. And speaking of leadership, Superintendent Fisher is doing a very good job of containing her excitement because this is her last board meeting as she retires on January 31st. And while we're happy that Superintendent Fisher is beginning a new chapter and exciting adventures ahead, we will miss her as a colleague and a friend. She's been a member of Executive Council since September 2021. And as the Superintendent of Schools, she's provided exceptional leadership for Espanola, Manitoulin, and all schools in her math portfolio. She's also had a positive impact system-wide on many other portfolios: childcare, early years, parent engagement, health and safety, and that was through the pandemic, which is no small feat. Professional learning, and of course, the math lead for the board. She's worked with the program team to prioritize professional learning in math, implement strategies, interventions, lighthouse classrooms, scope and sequence documents, as well as diagnostics to improve student learning. This is all part of the board's math achievement plan. You've had presentations on that, and you've also seen the positive impact and movement we've had in our student achievement results. As a classroom teacher since 1993, Superintendent Fisher taught a variety of grades in both French immersion and English programs prior to becoming a school administrator. She joined our board in 2004 after 5 years as a vice principal with the Algoma District School Board. She was the principal of Princess Anne Public School, Jesse Hamilton Public School, before becoming the very first principal of the new Walden Public School in Lively. She also served as principal of 2 French immersion schools in New Sudbury, Carl A. Nesbitt, and Ernie Checkris Public School. Prior to becoming a superintendent, Superintendent Fisher shared her expertise as a principal of program. She led the implementation of the renewed math strategy and the revitalization of literacy assessment strategies, resulting in improved outcomes. In addition to leadership roles supporting curriculum implementation and teaching practice, Superintendent Fisher also served as the chair of the Elementary Principals Association and of the Rainbow District Principals Council. She is a longtime instructor and coordinator of the Principals Qualification Program, preparing educators to assume further leadership roles. She also served on a variety of committees for the board, including the Joint Health and Safety Committee, the Leadership Steering Committee, and the French as a Second Language Steering Committee. She's been a valued member of our board's negotiating team, and I got to see her in action this summer when we finished off some contracts. And in spring of 2021, she received the Difference Maker Award from the Ontario Principals Council. The award recognizes administrators for their work in supporting teaching and learning. An interesting note about that, recipients are nominated by their peers, which certainly speaks volumes for the respect she's earned as an educator. Not so long ago, she was a proud graduate of LaSalle Secondary School's French Immersion Program, and she has an honors Bachelor of Arts degree in history with a minor in French from Laurentian University. She completed her Bachelor of Education and Master's degrees at Faculty of Education in Nipissing, specializing in supervision and curriculum. And certainly those efforts were well spent. We are grateful for the legacy of excellence that she leaves with us. She's been an exemplary teacher, administrator, leader, role model, and mentor. So not only will we miss her energy and expertise, we'll miss her wonderful sense of humor. Because as you know, you always do know when Leslie is near because you can often hear laughter. So with that, and I did promise I'd keep it short, but this could be longer than one of my updates that Chair Farrell loves so much. We do wish Superintendent Fisher the very best in your retirement. Thank you and congratulations on a truly outstanding career. I got more.
For the record, thank you.
So partially as a result of our celebration of Superintendent Fisher's career, we do have a few appointments, not all related to that, although I did joke that it'll take a strong team of people to replace her talents. I do have some other appointments to share as well in this list. So effective February 3rd, Aaron Franz, who is acting principal, will become permanent principal of Westmount Public School. Effective February 3rd, Elisa McNeil, who is acting principal, will be permanent principal of Lansdowne Public School. Effective February 3rd, Lorianne Lyle-Collins will be permanent principal of Berrydown College. So these are acting to permanent status changes. We have some congratulations, and he is in the room. Effective February 3rd, Dan Kozier will be appointed Superintendent of Schools. So congratulations, Dan. Also effective February 3rd, and also in the room, Leslie Mantle will be appointed Superintendent of Schools. Congratulations, Leslie. We all very much look forward to working with you in your new capacity. Some other pieces to this puzzle, effective February 3rd, Corey Petrie will join the Principal Student Achievement Team. Also February 3rd, Kate McKenzie will join the Principal Student Achievement Team. February 3rd, Rachel Booker will be the acting principal of Queen Elizabeth Public School. Effective February 3rd, Lisa Puddester will be acting principal of Marks Day Public School. Effective February 3rd, Stephanie Terrio will be acting vice principal of Chelmsford Valley District Composite School. And effective February 3rd, Jen Ferguson will be acting vice principal of Northeastern Elementary School. And in closing, and on a different topic, I'd just like to wish all of our students, including our student trustees, who are writing exams, all the very best success as a result of their hard work and dedication throughout this first semester. And without that dedication of our staff and commitment of all of our team and of administrators and support staff in our schools, we all combine our efforts to have this mid-year culmination in celebration of their academic achievements. So we wish everyone the best and thank everyone for their efforts. And with that, I'll close my comments. Thank you, Chair Farrell.
Thank you, Director Bourget. Superintendent Fisher, would you like to make any comments, or giving you the opportunity?
Just to be very brief, I would like to thank the Board of Trustees and our student trustees who are also here this evening. Thank you so much for the opportunity and for the leadership that you've shown, and it has been a wonderful pleasure to serve the board and to serve you. And thank the director for his very kind words, and I will leave it at that. Thank you very much. It's been wonderful.
Thank you, Leslie. Next item on our agenda is the OPSPA director. So go ahead, Trustee Cosmerly. You have the floor.
I'll be short and sweet. The Public Education Symposium is coming up later this week. PES provides a wonderful opportunity for trustees to hear great speakers, to network, and to learn. The session on good governance, presented by the Assistant Deputy Minister of Education, followed later by an insights discussion by the 3 education critics, should be especially interesting. Regional meetings are scheduled for the second day of the conference. The next OPSPA Board of Directors meeting is on February 24th in Toronto. Because the legislature will not meet until early March, this year's Advocacy Day, scheduled for February 25th, has been cancelled. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Trustee Cosmerly? Seeing none, we'll move to student trustees' reports. And we'll recognize Trustee Wilson Ziegel online.
Thank you. So hello everyone and good evening. I hope everyone is having a great start to the year, and I'm very excited to be here with you all to kick off 2025. I'm wishing everyone a happy and healthy year. Personally, my New Year's resolution this year is to lead the Student Senate in putting on an amazing conference. So with the conference, several exciting updates have happened since our last Student Senate meeting on January 6th. First, our biggest accomplishment is persevering through our previous venue problems and being able to book a space at Boreal. So both Trustee Nuchai and I are very happy about this, and I'm sure the rest of the Senate is as well. It's one of the restaurants on their campus, so it'll be a new and exciting change from previous conferences, and I'm really eager to see how it goes. This has paved the way for us to begin working on our budget, and our treasurer, Athena Gravel, has begun putting together a presentation of our expenses for our Senate meeting. This budget includes venue, catering, lanyards, t-shirts, and more. Speaking of t-shirts, our media design coordinator, Leo Duncanson Hales, is currently designing this year's conference logo and has sent us a mock-up of it. The tentative logo is a comic book themed design with like magazine cutout letters that say "Stand Up, Speak Out," with the Rainbow District School Board's Apple logo in the center with like a spiky action box, similar to the ones you would see in a superhero comic. Their artistic ability is very impressive, and they are working to combine the fun aspects of the conference with the leadership the Student Senate believes in the logo. Our lovely Vice Chair Natalia Campo is working on our presentation for the conference, where we explain what the Senate is and introduce ourselves. She's also working towards getting quotes for lanyards and t-shirts. At our next meeting, we will be discussing different ways to pique our younger high schoolers' interest in leadership and shape them into becoming effective leaders in their school through interactive activities along with our breakout rooms. As Trustee Nuchai said in her report at our last meeting, everyone is welcome to join us for Senate meetings. Our next meeting is February 3rd at 5:30 in this boardroom. feel free to come meet the senators and enjoy some pizza with us. We would love to see you there. Additionally, this is not in the report I wrote, but I just want to say thank you all for sending me and Trustee Nuchai to EAC. I'm very excited. I'm with the Public Education Interest Group cabinet as the Northern School Board's regional rep, and so we are hosting a session, and I'm very excited to be a part of that and there with the rest of the Northern trustees. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to me or ask them now. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Wilson-Ziegel. Trustee Nuchai, do you have anything? Go ahead. Yeah, we'll save questions to the end, okay?
Awesome. Okay, so thank you so much and good evening, everyone. I hope everyone has had a phenomenal holiday break accompanied by some much needed rest. I know I caught up on some Gossip Girl that I missed. So as Trustee Wilson-Ziegel had mentioned, conference planning is back and it is full swing, back on track, thankfully. As Trustee Wilson-Ziegel had mentioned, we'll be hosting this year's SUSO conference at Boreal College on April 24th, 2025. Once again, you guys are all more than welcome to come, and I can send out invitations for you guys shortly. We at the Senate have chosen Turtle Concepts as our keynote speaker this year. The request is in the works and we'll be hearing back by the end of the week for confirmation. Budget plans are soon to follow as well. As for breakout room speakers, the following theme that the centers have chosen are intra and inter-emotional intelligence, kinesthetic intelligence, and naturalistic intelligence, and more. Our theme this year is derived from the idea of veering away from your traditional book-smart intelligence, highlighting other key features of intelligence. Additionally, not only is our keynote speaker an Indigenous-based organization, but we also have one of our many breakout room speakers also Indigenous. Accompanied by the conference planning, the Senate is also publishing a Meet Your Senate post on our social media outlets shortly over the next few weeks. The post shares our names, schools, pronouns, and a fun fact. Additionally, through my position with OSTA, I have been asked to sit on the PPM 128 Task Force panel, which surrounds the recent cell phone ban implemented by the ministry. My role on the panel is to bring forth the voices accumulating by the Indigenous Student Trustees Council. I am excited to do my research and share the views of the Indigenous students across Ontario. Once again, we have our upcoming Student Senate meeting taking place on February 3rd, 2025 here in this boardroom from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. As always, you trustees are all welcome to come out and see our amazing senators, and I can guarantee that you will all be impressed. Finally, Trustee Wilson-Ziegel and I will be attending the OSTA Education Action Conference in mid-February in Ottawa. There we will get to participate in our advocacy fair, listening to keynote speakers, and partaking in a very fun nighttime activity that I have planned. These conferences are extremely important and educational for all student trustees and have been a highlight of my year as a student trustee thus far. Once again, I want to reiterate my sincere gratitude for allowing Trustee Wilson-Ziegel and I to attend these amazing conferences. And once again, I am more than happy to answer any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Student Trustee Nuchai. Any questions? Go ahead, Trustee Cosmerly.
Just a comment. I'm so happy you have Turtle Concepts. That's going to be your keynote because they are awesome, and I hope you have a great turnout for the conference, especially having them. They'll get everybody so involved. Thanks.
Thank you, Trustee Cosmerly.
Further questions? Trustee Hunda.
No questions, just a really quick, totally out of concept comment, which is probably usual. But I'm so incredibly proud of these two girls. Honestly, I feel more of a mom than I almost always do. But aren't they just amazing? Like, really, we're very, very lucky to have them leading our Senate, and we do actually have an excellent student Senate this year. And thank you, Maureen, for all the direction that you give us.
Thank you, Trustee Hunda. Anything further? Once again, thank you very much for your reports, and look forward to your review of the conference in February. So thanks so much. So we'll move on to trustees' remarks and questions. Trustee Corbier-Anderson, please.
Trustee McCauley and I attended the SEAC meeting on January 8th, and just a few points about it. there seems to be this role of retirement and people into new positions. Well, our staff met with the kindergartens that were coming into the schools, so the role continues. And they had meetings taking place so they could gain knowledge in order to assess where those young children are at and understand the needs to better place the students within our schools. They also informed us that one of the screening tools has changed from LSAT, which is a general abilities test, and it's changed to the Canadian Cognitive Abilities Test, or CCAT, which is used as a screening tool in grades 4 and 7. And also of note is there is a FASD conference on February 25th and 26th. Is this in Sudbury? At Chicagmaquag, in Sudbury here. So those are all the notes I have for today.
Thank you, Trustee Corber-Addison. Any further trustee remarks or questions? Trustee Cosmerly.
I like to talk, eh? I had the pleasure of attending a Think Trades evening at Confederation Secondary School in mid-December. This event, like the one I attended last year at Confed, was meant to interest girls in careers in trades. 10 students attended, along with their guests. We began the evening with dinner and excellent presentations by the designer of her own underground mining clothing line for women, and by representatives from the local carpenters union. I can't remember her name. Oh, we then visited the automotive shop and tried our hands at changing and repairing tires. Following this, I learned a lot about tires. Did you know that the date the tire is made is on the tire? I didn't know that. So if you look, there's a series of 4 numbers. That's okay, and she would know. Following this, we went to the wood shop and made cutting boards out of beautiful pieces of ash wood. And finally, we got to see the school's laser printer in action as we made milk glasses personally etched for us. I want to thank Principal Bertram for the invitation to this event, and Jody Jacobo, who is incredible, and the staff at Confed for an excellent evening. Jody is more than happy to host Think Trades events at other high schools, and I encourage them to contact her. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Cosmerly. Any further trustee remarks or questions? Trustee Clement, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair. We had our monthly SAL meeting this month, and I'd like to pleased to say that we only had 2 kids, so maybe things are really picking up, because we usually have a long list and a lot of kids that really need a lot of help, and that subject today on mental health would be a big part of that. Also, I'll often drop by my old alma mater, EHS, and they call me the ghost of the halls. I'm always in the halls, and somebody will call me in, usually the kitchen. I go to the kitchen. But Jason Stewart saw me in the hall. He calls me over to his visual arts class, and he introduced me to Rob Cass. It's in the Facebook page. He put it in here. A graduate of Confederation Secondary School. And his trade, he says, I'm a dry taper by trade, mudding. And what he did was, this was a robot class that day, and he built an R2-D2 right up my alley. Star Wars fan from way back. And it was so lifelike and so professionally done. He says he has no electronic background, but it was all remote, and they had little mini ones on the tables. The kids were using them there. And I says, does it talk at all? And he had it talking the same way you see on the movie, you know, that squeaking stuff was there. So I was able to ask her a question, and it said something like I was a really ignorant question, whatever it was. But I get such a kick out of and everybody should do that. You drop by the schools and you see very interesting things. I dropped by the carpenter shop. I have a lot of old carpentry books and stuff like this here, and I'd like to donate him. I want to donate him to the school, so I dropped in and see what he'd like. So it's always interesting to drop by the school and to keep in touch with everything. And oh yeah, and they had one book missing in the library of all the yearbooks, 1968, my book. So I went home, and my wife has been bugging me to go into the storeroom, and all my books are in there. I'll be darned if I didn't find my whole yearbook. So I'm going to donate that to the high school. So thank you. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee
Oh, and if
Clement.
you go to the Facebook page of EHS, you'll see me beside the robot.
Fantastic. Thank you, Trustee Clement. I don't know if we can top that report, but is there any any other further remarks or questions from trustees? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much for your remarks and your questions. I will now move on to the next section of the agenda, which is chairperson's remarks. So, sorry, I would like to move on to the next section, which is my remarks. So, first of all, sort of on a start off with on a somber note, that I would like to begin my remarks this evening by acknowledging the school bus collision that occurred on Highway 69 South yesterday morning. And of course, our thoughts are with the bus driver, the students who were on the bus, and their families. At this time, we come together to support our students and families and schools, and to support each other. For those who sustained injuries, we extend our wishes for a full recovery. We will continue to offer our support through our administrators, our mental health teams, our teachers, our staff, and our entire school community. So I'd like to just sort of change gears for a second and spend a couple of minutes to also acknowledge and to thank Superintendent Leslie Fisher for her years of service with the Rainbow District School Board. Now, I first met Leslie back in 2004. 2004. I'm trying to make us younger than we actually are. Where I was the principal at Princess Anne Public School, and she had the task of coming in after I was there. So I want to take this opportunity right now to publicly apologize. And I hope that you've forgiven me for all the non-teacher performance appraisals that I left you, and any messes that you needed to clean up, but I sure really appreciate all the efforts that you've made ever since. So thank you for that. I do want to say though, Leslie, your service to the students and the staff of Rainbow District School Board has been second to none, and we really appreciate your efforts and wanted to say thank you very much for all your service. And I want to personally wish you a very happy retirement, and I hope you enjoy your time at your new place over in Burge Island and have just a great, wonderful, long, fruitful retirement. So congratulations to you. So moving on behalf of the board, I'd like to thank the many families who have visited Rainbow Elementary Schools for our kindergarten information nights last week. We were if you were unable to attend and have a child starting school, you can still register by contacting your local Rainbow school. This past weekend, a group of elementary students from Chelmsford Valley Composite School, first ever robot team, competed at the first Logo League Provincial Championship at Durham College. For their efforts, students were awarded the Rising All-Star Award. They earned their spots at the provincials by competing at the qualifying tournament in North Bay in December. Of the 21 teams at the qualifier, they were selected as one of 6 to advance to the championships and garnered an Engineering Excellence Award. Huge congratulations to the students and coaches. The Rising All-Star Award celebrates a team that the judges notice and expect great things from in the future. So a heartfelt congratulations. And secondary school information nights continue in the upcoming weeks. Information nights will take place on Wednesday, February 12th at Manitoulin Secondary School at 6:30 p.m. and Thursday, February 13th at Espanola High School at 6 p.m. For those information nights that have already taken place, there is still time to register, so contact your Rainbow Secondary School. And the next Parent Involvement Committee meeting will take place on Tuesday, January 28th at 7 p.m. at the Center of Education. There will be a presentation on safe schools. Parent guardians are welcome to attend. And the Environmental Education Committee has challenged Rainbow Schools to kick off the new year with a green gathering, which is a shared meal that where there is just enough food for everyone with no food wasted and minimal garbage. This challenge is a part of the Environmental Committee's ongoing efforts to encourage sustainable practices in schools and communities. Next month, all schools would be challenged to reduce their electricity consumption. And parents and guardians of students with special needs in the Rainbow District School Board are invited to provide input for the 2025-2026 Special Education Plan. The deadline to complete the survey is Friday, March the 7th. The survey link is currently available on the board website. And a friendly reminder that secondary exams will take place from Friday, January 24th to Thursday, January 30th. And there will be no school for students on Friday, January 31st for our 5th professional activity day of the 2024-2025 school year. Information about the PD days is on the board website. And there will be no, there will also be no school for students on or staff on Monday, February 17th for Family Day. And the last thing I just wanted to mention, I look forward to attending the PSEC conference in Toronto this weekend, Friday and Saturday, with a few of my colleagues. Looks like it's going to be a very, very good time. So look forward to seeing you there, and I hope we have a great time. So that concludes my remarks for this evening. Thank you very much. So moving on in our agenda, information and proposals. We have reports from officials and staff. In your package tonight is a Special Education Advisory Committee minutes from the meeting of November 6th, and that's official. There are no other further information included in the package. Section F is our future meetings, parent involvement, as mentioned previously, January 28th at 7 p.m. Student Senate, which you've all been invited to on February 3rd, 2025 at 5:30 here in this room. Strategic planning, our next strategic planning meeting will be February 4th at 5 p.m. here, and the Special Education Advisory Committee will be on February 5th also at noon hour. Equity and Inclusion Committee February 13th at 3:30 p.m., and our next regularly scheduled board meeting is February 18th here in this room at 5 o'clock. So without any further information on our agenda, any further items, we will entertain a motion to adjourn. So can I have a mover by Trustee Clement, seconded by Trustee Dewar, that we are now adjourned at 6:36 p.m. Thank you very much. Everybody have a good evening.